Dealers arriving at the Frieze Art Fair were making a concerted effort to keep their chins up after a summer of discontent in the UK against a now familiar background of global economic uncertainty. Overall, trends were hard to spot, though. Galleries were inclined to take less risks with the works they brought to the show. However, the fair's international appeal remains strong.
For me, there are two art fairs very important. It is Art Basel and Frieze. That's a must, because here are the most important galleries, and every gallery is eager to show here the best what they have in their collection.
I have been here the whole development of the Frieze. I noticed like 8 years ago or something like that. Seems to be even more contemporary this year. So there are no classics in a way. There are, but they're not that obvious.
I have a selection of galleries that I always follow, but it's always interesting and very exciting to see the new cameras into Frieze and all the other art fairs. But Frieze is always the one that sets the pace.
Once again, David Thorpe selected works for the sculpture park outside the main fair, including Will Ryman's Rose sculpture, Icon 2011, Kiki Smith's Seer, Alice 2 2005, and Gavin Turk's Ajar 2011.
This door obviously is a sort of Magritte play on representation, so it's called Ajar. The joke being, when is a door not a door? When it's ajar. And obviously what's nice about it is that obviously it's a door and also it's ajar, which means that it's not a door. And I suppose it's a kind of gateway portal into something else. It's also a bronze cast of a door, painted to look like the old kind of knackered Victorian door that it is.
This was made actually originally as a small porcelain figure, and I like the white of it, the sort of artificiality of white. Normally when you make bronzes, you make them more towards the browns and the greens because that's the nature of how they want to go. It was scanned as small sculpture and then blown up large because I wanted to make something that could function as a garden sculpture next to a pond or in a natural surrounding, and you need a certain scale for that.
Frieze continued its programme of artists' commissions this year with 8 site-specific projects, as well as showing M-Award winner Anaita Razmi's work as a video installation on various screens throughout the fair. Despite dance being forbidden in Iran, Razmi managed to film the piece on the rooftops of Tehran, appropriating Trisha Brown's roof piece, 1971, which took place in New York. Sarah McCrory curated the diverse range of commissions, which continued to provide a contrast to the more commercially driven works in the booths throughout the fair.
It is essentially a commercial venture, of course, but I think there are lots of people who visit who are interested in seeing the commissions, curators and perhaps people who work in museums, students, general public, and they add a different texture to the fair. But also, the reason why they exist in a sense is that they can comment on the fair if the artist is interested in that. They can be critical, and I think we know that it's a very difficult environment to look at art, but in some ways, by commissioning new works, it's still a testament to the fact that art is at the centre of this whole enterprise, and by commissioning those new works, it's still supporting artists' ideas and giving a new, if completely chaotic and mad platform to show them in.
I have 2 boats here. One is this river boat. It's a tender, a smaller 10-meter boat. Bought as a piece of art, carries my first name, Christian. If you don't want an artwork but just a boat, you can get it a bit cheaper. Also sold to you by the same salesperson from the ship company. So I basically trained the ship company salesperson to walk in 2 steps. On one side, he can sell it as a sculpture. On the other side, he sells it as a boat. It's a kind of a work in balance, similar to the sculpture aspect, that it becomes only art by the decision of the person who makes this, decision for him. You see in a way, we are presenting two objects, the boat or the sculpture. We have the salesperson there, who's either a boat salesperson or he's a gallerist or an artist representative that tries to sell an artwork. And on the other level, we have the client coming and also have another part, the decision to make, to buy it as a sculpture or not.
Nearby on Thomas Dane's booth, Michael Landy gathered crowds by presenting an alternative for those unable to afford to buy a boat or a sculpture, or for those who had already bought too much.
I was commissioned to make it about a year ago for Louis Vuitton, and so it was a credit card destroying machine for Louis Vuitton. So it's a commission when they opened up their new store on New Bond Street. So that's the first time I showed it. And so I kind of like the idea when people maxed out on their credit cards or whatever, they'd feel slightly sick and want to dispose of their credit card. So that's the first time, and obviously I'm showing at Frieze now. So, it's an exchange basically. For an abstract drawing that's made by the machine, you have to offer up your credit card.
Now in its third year, Frame continued to provide a platform for galleries aged 6 years or younger.
Well, our gallery is a very small operation. It's just two of us, small space in Prague, very modest. So it's actually we opened at the end of 2005, and we were a bit worried when, the crisis hit in 2008, but it's actually been, every year has been better and better for us, but that's also because we started with nothing. And we've just been very careful with how we spend our money, and that's also a question of which art fairs we apply to, and it's always a risk, of course, because it is quite expensive thing to do, to come and transport the work and everything. But so far, so good. So, knock on wood, and I think I'm pretty optimistic because we have some great artists and they're doing better and better, and we're still careful with our budgets. I think we'll be okay.
Gaining acceptance into a large art fair can be an expensive and time-consuming process for small galleries. However, an appearance in Frame can lead to a booth in the main section of Frieze.
For us, we are in this kind of tricky position where we're sort of now moving from a young gallery to a main, to the main section, and it's a bit overwhelming to be across something which is like $500,000 or $2 million kind of thing. So because our price points are much kind of lower, but it's interesting because we have clients coming in and say, oh, this is like a really great work for this price, or at the same time some people think it's too cheap. So you're at that thing where you don't know how you're going to be taken seriously if you just look at the prices. But when people just come and see the works, I think it's great because I think we are able to hold our own with some of other good works. So I'm not really too concerned about prices.
With a backdrop of the ongoing financial crisis throughout Europe and the world, panic buying seems to be a thing of the past, with buyers deliberating for longer over their purchases.
I think people are definitely very circumspect about what they buy, and I think there is also a very sort of a long-term kind of outlook as to what people want to buy. I mean, we have collectors coming and they're just not buying, even though the price points are much lower. They want to know about the artist. They want to know how long you've been showing, where have the artists been showing in institutions. So I think now that this market frenzy is kind of over, and and all with this sort of economic uncertainty, I think people are cautious. You have good buyers, you have people who are interested, but they want to know where the artist is and what you're doing with the artist.
I have bought the Tim Eitel work, a huge work. You can see it at the gallery here, Eigen and Out.
Yeah.
Yes, and maybe the Ai Weiwei work, it's a sculpture. I'm fighting,
You're trying to get it.
Yeah, I haven't got it. Maybe I have the chance to get it,
Though some said the fair lacked the more exciting works of previous years and the overall pace of sales proved generally slower, most dealers were happy with the choice of works they brought to the fair.
On the first day, it was very good. The opening was really very good. Many collectors from foreign countries also, which I think is different than to last year. So it was really very good.
One sentence that we did hear these last days were, well, I'm buying it as long as money is still worth something. you know, and so you get a little bit that feeling, oh God, you don't want that everyone thinks this is like Judgment Day is coming soon. So a little bit, that is a factor that we're not sure how to judge. We would think for the time being it's good for the artwork because you have to diversify.
Yeah, I think we can look at it in a positive kind of way. People seem to realize if they look at it, art as an investment, that real estate or gold, you know, there's no securities anymore, and people seem to tend towards art at the very moment.